like to know why the last associate producer before me made $50 a week more than I do.
Oh, because he was a man.
Let me get this straight. The only reason he was paid more than I am is because he was a man?
Oh, sure. It has nothing to do with your work.
Wait, no. Wait. Well, Mr. Grant, there is no good reason why two people doing the same job at the same place shouldn't be making the same...
He had a family to support. You don't. Now, why don't you come back when you have an answer to that?
And that was the late Mary Tyler Moore as her fictional character, Mary Richards. When the Mary Tyler Moore Show first aired in 1970, there were few depictions of working women on TV. By the time the series ended in 1977, Mary had dealt with an array of workplace issues such as sexual harassment and, as you saw in that scene, being paid less than male colleagues. Joining us now to discuss how much things have changed for working women since the Mary Tyler Moore Show is MarketWatch news editor Quentin Fottrell. Quentin, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
It's sort of hard to overstate how revolutionary at the time the Mary Tyler Moore Show felt to audiences who had seen few depictions of working women, at least in the workplace, on TV.
Right, working women, single women. It was really, she was the center of her own show. She was an associate producer. She, as you could see in that scene, she was a little nervous at first, but her character grew and she became a lot tougher and increasingly capable. In real life, Mary Tyler Moore, with her then husband, Grant Tinker, owned the production company that produced the show. They produced other shows. It was a real, she really instigated like a real life revolution.
And they get credit for it. She wasn't just an actress playing a role. As you said, she and her husband produced it, and she's often said, I was playing myself. So she actually had a hand creatively in what the material was.
She did, and a third of the writers were women, which was a large percentage back then, believe it or not.
And of course, it's reflecting in the 70s the much greater numbers of women who started entering the workforce at the time.
Right, and this started in 1970. It really was just at the cusp of the women's liberation movement. So she was just ahead of that curve.
Absolutely. So let's look at some of the things that her character deals with in the show and see how things have changed. Of course, we saw there the gender wage gap being illustrated very clearly. What we didn't get to see is that Mary had a great comeback, right, Quentin? What did she say?
Well, she came back and she said, you know, if I were, if you would pay a man with 2 kids more than a man with 1 kid, and then you would pay a married man more than a bachelor, it doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely.
So she got her $50 a week pay raise, which was great. But back then, the women were paid about 58 cents on the dollar, and it wasn't until like the 80s that it went above like 61 cents. Now it's closer to 80 cents on the dollar, according to some estimates, yes.
Although it's so interesting, though, sometimes you still have to fight for it. Robin Wright had a very interesting story about House of Cards.
Right, with Netflix, and she said to the makers of House of Cards, you've got to pay me the same as Kevin Spacey, because my character is just as popular as Kevin Spacey's, and he was reportedly earning something like $500
an episode,
more than the $50.
And she said to them, "I'll go public if you don't," and they did.
Right, and they gave it to her.
Gave it to her.
Yeah, so you can see it's still happening even today.
Yes, absolutely. Now let's move on to another issue. I think it was an episode or season 1. Mary had to deal with the sexual advances of a cameraman.
Right, he was bumbling definitely in the episode, but the advances were, it was a joke. And when the word got around that apparently she'd accepted his advances when she didn't, Ted Baxter, who was I think I'm wearing his tie today.
It looks good.
Yeah,
it looks good.
He even thought, oh, maybe I'll make an advance on Mary. There was a moment where he was interested in her at the end of that episode, and she was like, Ted, go home.
Don't even think about it.
So, but that was a big deal.
A big issue, and it took a while for this issue to work its way through the courts. I don't think it was until 1986 that the Supreme Court actually
ruled it as a violation of the Civil Rights Act. Yeah, 1975, there was a milestone court case where sexual harassment really in the workplace entered the popular vernacular, so it became a thing.
Right.
But it took a long time, like with equal pay. It's been then in the 90s with, of course, the Clarence Thomas hearings, Anita Hill. It was put on the national agenda. It became a really big deal, and sexual harassment cases did spike after that, and then they leveled off for a number of years. But it's still, there are studies that say 1 in 4 women are the subject of sexual harassment in the workplace even now,
So
which is a lot more than the official figures.
Absolutely. So it's still there. Now, of course, I don't know how much Mary Richards dealt with balancing family and work life. I don't think that was ever specifically a storyline.
Because she was single and she was not. They didn't want her to be divorced. That was one concession she made. She did not have kids in the show. But I guess from the perspective of being a single woman without a child, that she had to fight for recognition too, like we saw in the scene that you showed as well.
Right.
And also foreshadowed that whole, like, we have Girls in HBO and Sex and the City, the whole notion of a found family of friends was foreshadowed in that show too. So a lot more things there than meets the eye.
What a great show. What a great actress. A whole generation of women, not just women, but girls and boys.
Oprah Winfrey was inspired by her.
Inspired by her. So fantastic.
Amazing.
She really paved the way. Quentin
Trailblazer.
Fottrell, thank you so much for
My
that.
pleasure.